The following is a presentation of the Healthcare Facilities Network.
Hello, and welcome to the Healthcare Facilities Network. I am your host, Peter Martin of Gosselin Martin Associates. As always, thank you for clicking on this episode. Today's episode is number 3 of our series, Career Ladders. So this is Career Ladders episode 3. We've gotten good feedback on it before, and so we thought, well, let's do another one. So if you're not familiar with Career Ladders, what we do is we take 10 resumes from our database, from our vast database of candidates, and we pull them out and we show different career paths that people have taken to get into their role in healthcare facilities management. From the feedback we've gotten, it's instructive for people to see, well, how do people get where they are? And a lot of times, as you look back at resumes, and even as you look back at careers, and maybe as you look back at your career, you find that it was not really a linear path that gets you to where you are. I know certainly, as I've said many times, I never expected to be doing any of this, certainly. So my, the route you take can be very circuitous. And that's why we like to do these career ladder episodes, because we see that people, their dips and turns. And so these are 10 resumes, take the people's names off of it so nobody knows who the person is, and we just review their path. Now, in today's episode, what I wanted to do is I wanted to focus on 2 distinct areas. In the past episodes, they were just kind of random. But for today, I wanted to look at engineer career path, and then critical access hospital career paths. And I picked those 2 because number one, everybody's looking for engineers these days. When we work with hospitals, when we work with clients, can you get me a mechanical engineer or a electrical engineer? Everybody wants them. There aren't as many of them these days. People aren't going into the engineering fields. And so I wanted to pull 4 engineering resumes to show you. On the critical access hospital side, I selected critical access because, and I'm sharing my screen here, critical access hospitals account for roughly 1,300, roughly, as I say specifically, there's 1,362 critical access hospitals in the US as of October of 2023. We have 6,129, excuse me, 6,129 total hospitals. So 1,300 out of 6,100. So these are rural-based hospitals, and you can see right down here, this is the designation of a critical access hospital. Have 25 or fewer acute care inpatient beds, be located more than 35 miles from another hospital, maintain an average length of stay of 96 hours or less for acute care, and provide 24/7 emergency care services. And so that's the critical access hospital designation. So that's a lot of hospitals in the US. And then when you throw on community-based hospitals, I think you get up to like 3,800 hospitals, so 38 out of 6,100. And so I wanted to focus on these folks because, there are certainly challenges in critical access hospitals, face more challenges recruiting than other hospitals. Number one, often they're located in rural areas that are truly rural. We've done a couple of recruitments in the Dakotas and in rural Minnesota, and often you can be 100 miles from your next closest hospital. You can be 100 miles from Home Depot. Now, I know directors loathe talking about Home Depot, and it's kind of like it's the homeowner's place, but in a pinch, Home Depot or Lowe's, where do you go? So there's great challenges with critical access hospitals. And so I wanted to show a couple of different paths, and that's where we're going to start with our critical access hospital career paths. Let's go to the full screen here. And so these are candidates who actually wanted to go, were interested in working in critical access hospitals. Some of them ended up getting the job, others didn't. And I started with this gentleman because great experience, right? I mean, you look at this path, all the certifications that you would want, right? Project engineer, but then goes into healthcare, into hospitals, and has stayed in hospitals for the majority of the career, other than going as an independent consultant, but coming back, multi-hospital experience. And so I've had hospitals who would look at a person like this and say, man, they're not going to come here. This is a critical access hospital. Why would they go from a multi-hospital where you have 3 people or 3 hospitals to, our small critical access hospital where, as you know, the directors in the critical access hospital, they're doing everything. They may have to go out into the field at some point and turn a wrench. And they wear many hats, and they wear many hats because that's just the nature of the assignment. But I brought this person up because their motivation for wanting to go to a critical access hospital was they wanted to escape kind of that bigger city life. They wanted to go out into the rural area. He and his wife were at a point in their career where they could transition, whereas before they couldn't. He was an outdoors person. And also, when you're a director at a big hospital, you might be in meetings a lot. You might have other things you need to do. This person kind of wanted to return to what they liked doing, more hands-on stuff. And so I bring him up first only to say, and I tell, our clients this all the time, find out the motivation for people. Why do they want the role? That's, in our role as recruiters, that is a frustration sometimes. We can only push so much. I'm not gonna, I push back, but if you say no, I'm only gonna push a couple of times. It never hurts to ask the question, why? Why does this person want this job? Figure out what the why is. Now, you might not be able to come to terms on a salary. Again, critical access hospitals are often paying less, but there are people who hit a point in their career where salary is not the most important thing for them. They're out there. And so, candidate number 1, if this person shows up at your door, you may want to talk to them. This is Peter Martin. If you or your organization is interested in advertising or partnering with the Healthcare Facilities Network, including sponsoring content, then please email me using the barcode in the lower right of your screen. From the trades level to the vice president level, from planning, design, construction, project management, compliance, safety, and security, the Healthcare Facilities Network reaches FM people where FM people are. So this isn't the best view, but it's kind of the view. I'm not happy about it, but it's full screen. And so we have 2 candidates here. We're going to start with candidate 2 over here on the left. So don't look over here to the right. Let's look at candidate 2 first. Now, this person down here, you can see, started in heavy equipment, little biomed certifications, a little heavy equipment designation there, went to the electric company, bouncing around, and then found his way into biomed in a hospital and was there for 16 years. And actually, this person found their way into biomed in a critical access hospital. And when the director role came open, that person was sitting there in the hospital and expressed their desire to, I want to try for that director role. And so the biomed people, maybe close your ears here, or maybe you don't want to hear it, but biomed is a nice breeding ground for potential facilities employees. And this person's transition was pretty seamless. I already knew the hospital players, was already well established, was liked. Now, certainly there is a bit of a learning curve, when you transition from one to the other, but relative to, some of the systems and the employees, was really well versed. So critical access hospitals, as the challenges of recruiting become more, look internally, look at what you have in-house and see if that person wants to make the transition. Because there are many folks in I think the last career ladders we did, we looked at a number of biomed people who made transitions all the way up to including like a system vice president level. This person over here, candidate number 3, was in this hospital for 5, he was in there for many years and was laid off when they were acquired by a larger system, and was kind of out, didn't know, was struggling to find their way because they had put in so many years into that community-based hospital, and then loved the community aspect of this hospital and wanted to stay in that community aspect, and was interested in critical access too much careers on the mind. Was interested in critical access hospitals because the critical access hospital, to an extent, mirrored the community hospital that he started in and that he grew in. And so this is really your traditional, boiler to HVAC to HVA supervisor. That's the career path of the past, in many ways. Doesn't have the college degree, but didn't mean he couldn't do the job and do it well. Ultimately was not hired for the role, but again, this is kind of that background. You deal with this a lot, and I've done many shows on it, just talking about the college degree. And I've said in my piece before, I don't believe you need a college degree to do, the director job well. If you're an academic medical center, you probably need the degree, not probably, you do, to get in there. We can, go back and forth as to, is it necessary? But anyways, this person really loved that critical access. In fact, when I've talked to this person before, post doing the recruitment, and there's a couple of times I've talked to him and he's been out camping and hunting and would always take the call too. So that's also what you're looking for in a director, who will take the call when they're out there. But this is this candidate 3, almost a classic critical access hospital director track that you would be, looking for, because they're done many things. They've done hands-on, they've led. So it's a nice career path there. Let's look at candidate number 4. Again, we're looking at another biomed person, but the reason I put them in there is because they started as a public school teacher, so made a little bit of a career transition. This gentleman has a great soft skill package to him. There's a lot. Yeah, I could see where you would look at this resume and say, okay, there's a lot of biomed there, and a little bit of bouncing around. But again, that traditional biomed is just another thing to say that's kind of the breeding ground, especially in for a critical access hospital. Candidate number 5, associate's degree, was in higher education. These were all one role. That's why they're all the same color there, but bounced around a little bit. And in subsequent years, went to a hospital for the first time here for 3 years, went back to higher ed. And we see this occasionally, where folks leave healthcare and they miss it. And that's what happened with this particular person. They left healthcare and said, it's once they got a taste of it, they enjoyed it. So if you are a candidate, and I tell people that all the time, you can always make career transitions. In fact, you can always come back. But we do see occasionally where people leave healthcare and they miss the adrenaline of it, especially if they go to higher ed. Sometimes higher ed, the pace of higher education can be a little bit different. It's not as it is not as critical priority all the time like it is in healthcare. And I've told this story before. When I was working for a construction firm, we were doing a summer project. They do a lot of in higher ed, they do a lot of summer slammer projects to get them out of the way once the kids leave and before they come back. And this one particular project, it was a renovation of a shower athletic complex, showers, gym, all combined. It was below grade. And one afternoon, we got training thunderstorms. So it was a summer afternoon, and we don't get training thunder. When I say training, one thunderstorm after another. It was below grade. It flooded, the work, and it was late in the afternoon. Well, not late. It was probably 2:30, 3 o'clock, and we were down there pumping it out. And the director of facilities came by, looked at it, saw that we had it under control, and just kind of left. Said, oh, okay, I'll be back tomorrow. If that happens in a hospital, the director's probably not saying, okay, I'll be back tomorrow. So there is a different pace, and that's not a criticism. It's just there's a pace that's different between academia and healthcare. So this gentleman, again, at a critical access, and sometimes, people enter healthcare at a critical access hospital. Now, you wear many hats. It's also not as big. It's also not as just from a bed count wise. Remember, we saw that it's 25 beds or fewer. So that's candidate 5. Candidate 6, put him up here, over here. Candidate number, sometimes I'll point to the screen, but you can't see where I'm pointing. So we have our engineer over here. This person also happens to be an engineer. Candidate number 6, critical access hospital. This person is very strong engineering wise and was interested in a critical access opportunity, has been, for you can see it right there. It's doing condition assessments for the last 3 years. This person, and I wonder if they're kind of like a dinosaur in the industry. And if they are a dinosaur, I'm kind of sad about that. This person tells you like it is. He's an engineer, has done the role. There's nobody who is more passionate and knowledgeable about it. But they're also kind of old school in that, maybe the soft skills aren't exactly what you'd want. And they're not out there telling you to, they're not swearing at you, telling you to go, but they're also very blunt, and I think that being blunt, being respectful and blunt, but telling it like it is one of those, they've run afoul occasionally because people don't like to hear sometimes the facts. Now, in the role now as the third-party assessment manager, that's what this person likes about it, because they go in, they tell you what the problems are. As a client, you like to hear that because you're paying for that expertise, that mechanical expertise. You're paying for somebody who can go and tell you where your life safety problems are and say, hey, what are you doing? And they can do that, and then they can move on. So and this person is interested occasionally in the critical access world because they feel that their knowledge is more valued in that type of an environment where you need to be hands-on and where you need to get things done quickly and where they're counting on you. And so, candidate 6, to me, again, you would look at that resume, but I know when I work with him, I'm always aware of the environment, and he's very aware of the environment. And that's what we talk about, the environment, and what does leadership want to hear? And how can you work effectively within that? And do you want to work there? Because again, if you are in a third-party role, like if you're a seasoned director and maybe you're the world has changed a little bit, right? And sometimes you go to these third parties and you can be, this is the problem. You can be really blunt because you're in, you're out, and they're paying you for your expertise. So this person's really instructive. If you're a candidate, the thinking of the environment you're going to, and bluntly, can you be blunt? And how do you package what you present? That's always the key, right? How do you package that information? And so this person, critical access candidate number 6, has worked in some organizations in the assessment, and they've wanted to hire him. They want to hire him away from the third party and bring him on as a hospital employee. And he's occasionally, I don't want to do that because, when I become your employee, then I'm your employee. I'm not your consultant anymore. But this person, again, as far as knowledge is concerned, as far as the ability to do the job, he's perfect. So let's switch over to the engineering career path right over here. Now, everybody wants engineers, but do you want to pay for it? And are you prepared to pay for that engineering degree? There's a lot of stuff we want, but we can't always get it. And one of the things with the engineers, when you want them, you better be prepared to pay for them. And you can see it here, right? Let's look at this person's path. Engineering technology, came out, was a facilities engineer in the private sector, senior construction and energy manager, private sector, was getting paid pretty well down here in the private sector, made the jump into the academic medical center environment and stayed there, and has been there into a senior project manager role, and has been compensated well for it. So I think, as we look at engineers, or you look for engineers, you always need to see what their background is, because engineers, come into healthcare facilities from a variety of different industries. This is a generalization, obviously, so I don't mean to offend anybody, but what is the engineering role that you're putting them into, and what does that soft skill package need to be like? That's always, critically important too. Over here with candidate 6 on the critical access, that's one of the things that he and I talk about a lot as well. And we're very blunt with each other, because that soft skill package is important. Sometimes you might be able to hide an engineer, depending upon what the role is. And when I say hide, what are they doing? I was talking to somebody last night, a college student, and they were talking about one of their professors. And I think the same thing for this professor would hold true for engineers. This professor's done a lot of research and has done research into HIV and has done really well as a researcher. But the students were complaining about them as teachers and how their ability to interact and to answer questions and to answer questions without making you feel like you were an idiot. That's what they were talking about, because this particular professor was so smart. I mean, it's a researcher. We all know researchers. We have many researchers in hospitals. And so I think sometimes with engineers, that's the same thing, right? How do you relate? How do you interact? How do you talk? Engineer career path 2 and 3. I brought these people up again just to hammer home the monetary part of it. So here, both of these gentlemen, and you can see the colors are the same. We got the little pills over here that shows pharmaceuticals. We have little dollar bills down here because they're working for Fortune 500 companies. They've got those engineering degrees. This person was interesting because they started as a journeyman engineer. But you're going to pay for this, right? You are going to pay for this experience if that is what you're looking for. This person on the left bounced around a little bit, right? And they can bounce around because people are going to pay for them. And that's sometimes the fear with the engineer, right? Are they going to stay with you? Can they make more money? You can't compete with pharma, I don't think, as a hospital. Fortune 500 companies, I don't know that you're going to compete. But this person over here, career path 3, has been in healthcare for 12 years now with a big system, gets paid well, but also part of what keeps this person here is the mission component of healthcare. That's what they enjoy. We've talked a lot on the Healthcare Facilities Network. One of the big differentiators for a hospital is that mission that they have. And I've tried to do this, or we're trying to do this on the Healthcare Facilities Network, reaching out to hospitals if you have open engineering roles, or if you have opening facilities roles, and we've done this once or twice, I would love to interview you and put it out there on the network and promote it. Hospitals need to promote what they do because their mission is so integral to it. And it's the mission and candidate 3 here. That's why he stays in it, because of the mission. Hospitals they have to. Said it before, I don't want to tell anybody what they need to do, but hospitals really need to promote what makes them different than these competitors. Because again, this is who you're going against. For engineers, this is your competition down here. It's not the hospital next door to you. It's pharmaceuticals, it's Fortune 500. It's all of these other experiences they have, because once they get that mechanical or electrical degree, people are looking for them. So again, just to hammer it home, if you say you want an engineer, are you prepared to pay for them? Because you have to be. We close with engineer 4, and this is the traditional career path. Maritime engineering, went into maritime engineering, and then came off the boat and went right into the hospitals and loved hospitals and has stayed there ever since, making their way all the way up to a corporate VP. I did a show with Steve Carberry, which you can find, from the boat to the hospital boardroom. So from the boiler room to corporate VP of facilities and construction. And you can find that in the Healthcare Facilities Network. This person took a similar path. Back in critical access hospital, candidate number 6 that I mentioned, and engineer number 1 that I mentioned. Remember, it was here that I was talking about sometimes, does your engineer have the soft skills you're looking for? And sometimes you might be able to hide an engineer depending upon what the role is. And when I say hide, actually probably work better to try to improve some of those soft skills. But engineer career path for this person's got the soft skills was never an issue, is not an issue. And so you can see how, coming out of the maritime world, those maritime engineers are great. And you bring them right into that traditional career path. And this person has obviously stayed there and took the path. So that's Career Ladders, episode 3. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to me, shoot me an email. We'll do more of the career ladders. And if there is a career path that you'd like me to show, let me know. I can go, like I said, I'll go through the resumes, take people's names off, try to do one of these a quarter. So if there's an equivalent to an engineer or equivalent to a career, keep saying career access, critical access. So I'm gonna actually, since I've said career access so many times, if I've misspoken in here and called a critical access a career access, my apologies. When I look back through this, I'll probably see it, so I'll take them out. But I thank you for watching. Career Ladder episode 3 is over. Look for Career Ladder episode 4, probably next quarter. As always, thank you for tuning in. And again, if you are a hospital and you are searching for employees and you're in the HR component, we need to approach it differently, because as you can see, the competition out there is stiff, especially for those engineers. So Peter Martin for the Healthcare Facilities Network. As always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the future for another episode. Have a great day.